Welcome back. Sudan's Transitional Military Council has sacked the country's public prosecutor, General Ahmed Mohammed, and his deputy, Hesham Saleh, bowing to pressure from protesters for a change of administration of former President Omar al-Bashir. Both men played a key role in jailing government critics and protesters. The military leadership also sacked the head of the state-owned TV and radio corporation, Mohammed Suleiman. For more international news, here's Simon Pusey with Around the World in 5.
Good evening from the Channel's newsroom here in London. Hundreds of millions of euros have been pledged to help rebuild Notre Dame after the French cathedral was partially destroyed by a massive fire. The country's President Emmanuel Macron declared a national emergency and promised the 12th century building will be restored to its former glory. Dani Vucinovic reports.
Described as a disaster and tragedy, the world was stunned as it watched the historic building go up in flames. A raging inferno observed during Holy Week as Christians prepare for Easter. Firefighters worked tirelessly to save the cathedral from being totally destroyed. A mammoth task as a large section of the roof burned under intense heat. Onlookers gasped as the spire collapsed. Officials risked their lives to save priceless artefacts, recovering relics such as the Thorn of Crowns, which Catholics believe was worn by Jesus at his crucifixion. The treasures were loaded onto trucks and whisked away for safekeeping. In the cold light of day, the outpouring of grief spread far and wide. I want to cry, said this woman. It's devastating. As I saw the disaster unfold, I was completely overwhelmed. It took around 15 hours before crews finally declared the fire fully extinguished. Inspectors swiftly moved in to assess the damage.
Globalement, la structure tient bon.
All in all, the structure is holding up well, but some weak points have been identified, especially around the vault, meaning the ceiling, and also on one of the gable ends of the north transept that has to be secured, which has led to the evacuation of 5 residence buildings.
Police are said to assume that the fire was accidental, and some have suggested it could be linked to restoration works. The prosecutor's office has launched an inquiry. Dani Vucinovic, Channel's Television News.
The African Union has threatened to revoke Sudan's membership unless civilian rule is established within 15 days. Thousands of protesters have been gathering in the capital, calling on the military to relinquish power after ousting the former President Omar al-Bashir. They've warned the demonstrations will continue until their demands are met. The Transitional Council says it's in the process of choosing a prime minister for a civilian government. More than 120 environmental activists have been arrested on suspicion of public order offences after staging a second day of protests in central London. Demonstrators say the action could last at least a week and will be expanded to include more than 30 other countries.
We glued ourselves to this so that this vehicle could not be moved by the police last night. The reason why we're doing that is that we want to secure this bridge as part of the Actions for Extinction Rebellion. We're doing this because we want the government to take action about the climate crisis, about the ecological collapse that we're facing.
A retired Norwegian guard has been jailed by a court in Moscow for espionage. Frodeberg was sentenced to 14 years in a labour camp for spying on Russian Navy submarines. The 63-year-old who denied the accusation admitted acting as a courier for Norwegian intelligence, but said he had little knowledge of the mission. His lawyer says he won't appeal the verdict, but will seek a pardon from President Putin. A memorial ceremony has been held to mark 5 years since the Sewol ferry sank off South Korea. The vessel, which was structurally unsound, overloaded and travelling too fast, capsized, killing 304 people on board, most of them children on a school trip. Thousands of mourners gathered across the nation for a moment of silence to remember the victims. Some are calling for a new inquiry, saying there are still many unanswered questions. Africa has seen a dramatic rise in measles cases, up 700%. The World Health Organization says the number of cases reported globally in the first 3 months of this year has tripled compared to the same period last year. Ukraine, Madagascar and India have been the worst affected by the highly infectious viral illness, with tens of thousands of reported cases per million people. And finally, an exhausted dog has been brought back to shore after an epic swim. The shivering brown aspen was spotted in the sea nearly 220 kilometres off the coast of Thailand. Named Boonrod, a Thai word which roughly translates to survivor, he was tired, dehydrated and hungry when he was found by oil rig workers. The pooch is now being cared for by an animal rescue group. And that's your news around the world in 5.
Thanks a lot, Simon. Good rescue indeed. On to sports. Here's Olumide Macaulay.
Thank you, Ijoma. Welcome to Sports News. Super Falcons of Nigeria will contend with Burkina Faso, Niger Republic and Mali in Group B of this year's West African Football Union Women's Tournament. The WAFU tournament is scheduled to hold from May the 8th to the 18th in Abidjan. Host nation Côte d'Ivoire, alongside Togo, Senegal and Ghana, will battle things out in Group A. The tournament will serve as the last preparatory competition for the Super Falcons before they fly to their final camp in Austria ahead of the FIFA Women's World Cup in France. The Golden Eaglets of Nigeria will guarantee a return to the FIFA Under-17 World Cup finals if they overcome Angola in their second match at the Africa Cup of Nations in Tanzania on Wednesday. The 5-time world champions defeated host nation Tanzania in the tournament opener on Sunday and pocketed 3 precious points. Angola's 1-0 win over Uganda's hours later has ensured that the winner of the top-of-the-table duel between Nigeria and Angola will have one leg in the semi-finals and automatically in the World Cup slated for Brazil later this year. And that's it on Sports News. Ijoma is back now with the rest of the news at 10.
Thanks a lot, Olumide. Just to remind you once more, that Channels Television, in collaboration with the BBC, will be launching a new current affairs program called Gist Nigeria tomorrow, April the 17th, 2019. The studio-based show will focus on the stories behind the news, with original storytelling and audience interaction via @Gist Nigeria TV and its studio here in Lagos. The new co-production will air live every Wednesday on Channels Television for 30 minutes at 9 p.m. here in Nigeria, and will also be available on Channels 24 in the UK via Sky 518. And the main news again. A federal high court in Abuja today ordered the Department of State Services to produce the former National Security Advisor, retired Colonel Sambo Dasuki, in court. Well, that's the news at 10 tonight. Thanks a lot for staying with us. I'm Ijoma Onyato. You have a good night.
Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Dr. Osmai. They call me the